Before we get into today's episode, just wanted to see if you guys aren't subscribed to the Photo Banter YouTube channel, it'd be much appreciated if you go over to the Photo Banter YouTube channel, hit subscribe. It'd help us out a lot just to keep producing more videos and podcasts. All you got to do is go over to the Photo Banter, hit subscribe on YouTube, and it'd be much appreciated. Before we get into today's podcast, I wanted to tell you guys about PicDrop. PicDrop is an image transfer tool I've been using personally for over 5 years now. It's how I send all my photos to my clients, and I can create custom galleries online, which I can access on my laptop, mobile phone, on the go, where I can download files. It's just a really intuitive platform that was actually designed by photographers with photographers in mind. So they really understand what photographers need when they're delivering photos to clients. And they're constantly updating the platform with new tools and things you can use to just kind of streamline your workflow and make it easier when sending your photos to clients. They have a cool new scribble tool. So if you're working with a retoucher or a client, they can make notes on your photos and really just make it easy to communicate with your client and keep everything in one spot. I can't recommend it enough. It's just, for me, it's a lot better than some of the more outdated platforms like WeTransfer and Dropbox. It's just a very specific transfer tool for photographers in mind. So with today's podcast, with the promo code BANTER, you'll get 2 months free of PicDrop. All you got to do is go over to picdrop.com, enter the promo code BANTER, and you'll get 2 months free. So definitely go give it a try. Let me know what you guys think. And without further ado, we'll get into today's episode. Welcome back to the Photo Banter podcast. I'm your host, Alex Gagne, and on today's episode, I welcome on photographer Kannetha Brown. Kannetha Brown is a photographer based in Providence, Rhode Island. She's a graduate of the Massachusetts College of Art and Design. Her work has been published in Rolling Stone, the New York Times, as well as exhibiting her work around the country in various galleries. I've been following Kannetha's work for years now and really just appreciate her honest approach to portraiture and documentary work that she does with her family and the Cambodian community in and around Rhode Island. So I was excited to get Kannetha on the podcast to kind of hear about her journey with photography, how she approaches her project-based work, as well as how she approaches kind of promoting her work and showcasing in galleries and much, much more. Really excited to get Kannetha on the podcast, and I hope you guys enjoy this episode. And if you're around Boston this Saturday, March 22nd, Kannetha is going to be doing an artist talk at the Leica Gallery in Boston, which is at the Leica store from 12 to 2 in Boston, Mass. So definitely go check that out. I'll put all her links in the description. But yeah, without further ado, here's the Kannetha Brown episode. Kannetha Brown, excited to have you.
Thank you.
Like we said before we started recording, I've known about your work for years on Instagram, and I actually went to your show 2 summers ago. I think it was your Two Oceans show.
Oh, no way.
Yeah,
That's
it was
awesome.
a great show. We're going to get into it, but really excited to talk to you. Like you were saying, Providence and this area, it's just kind of a smaller city. So anytime I get to connect with other photographers, people in the arts, it's a good time.
Awesome.
But I saw next week you have an exciting thing. So people listening, I'm going to post this next week. You got a thing at the Leica store in Boston.
I do.
You're doing an artist talk.
Yeah.
It's on next Saturday.
Next Saturday, 12 to 2.
What's that going to be about?
So it's going to be about 3 projects that are currently out, as well as some conversation about the history behind those projects. So I'll be talking about the Two Oceans project. I'll also show some of the work I was doing when I was in college that inspired my work that I'm doing now. I'll also be talking about my newest work, which is A Familial Stranger, which I did with my grandmother over the summer. And just some little small projects here and there, but mostly about my work. So really excited for that.
That is exciting. And following you along on Instagram, following your work for years, you inspire me because you're out there.
I appreciate it.
You're in the artist community. It seems like you're hustling. You're trying to find opportunities to get your work out there.
I try.
Have you? Yeah. Because that's a hard thing to do, to get your work out there and do shows, and it's kind of a lot of DIY. How have you kind of approached this, kind of getting your name out there and getting your work seen?
Yeah, I think it all started when I was 18. I had taken a gap year after high school because I wanted to be a teacher, but I also liked photography, and I was really lost trying to figure that out. And I figured even though it wasn't the mold that everyone else was doing, I figured it would make more sense financially to take some time to figure out what I wanted to do. And that gap year really pushed me to put myself out there. So I would, walk into stores in the arcade downtown and be like, do you guys want to do a photo shoot? Like that kind of thing. And I don't even know. Looking back, I'm like, how did I have the balls to do that?
Because you don't even know.
Yeah, I didn't know anything, and I met some great people through that. And Instagram has been surprisingly such a great tool. I don't know about like these days. I think like the algorithm and things like that, things have changed a lot, but it's been a great tool to connect with people in Boston and in Providence, and sometimes around the world as well. And it's just putting yourself out there and just trying not to think too much about it. Thinking enough where you don't like make a fool of yourself.
Yeah, because I've seen like following your Instagram, you'll have like these like events and you're like talking about your work and stuff. Are you comfortable doing that? Did it take you a while to get used to that, or?
I think it took me a little bit. I think after graduating from Mass Art, I did find it easier to talk about my work after, writing and statement after statement and revision after revision. And to this day, I think it's never the easiest thing in the world. Maybe it'll get easier, but the more you do it and the more you meet people that appreciate what you do, it gets easier.
No, that's great. And I guess to go back, like, where did you grow up and like how did you kind of first discover photography?
Yeah, so I grew up in Barrington, Rhode Island. My mom, she loved photography. She was definitely a hobbyist photographer. I think she could be so incredibly well known. Her work is beautiful. So she photographed me and my sister growing up, as well as her surroundings after coming to the U.S. And she made these gorgeous landscape photos, portraits, all sorts of stuff. And I just grew up surrounded by those photographs, and it really inspired me to think about photography for why we actually used it in the first place, like just as a way to commemorate other people.
I love there's like a video on your Instagram and your mom had like a huge poster, like a massive, like, I don't know, it's it takes the side of a building. It's a portrait of her.
Yes.
And then it's on a parking lot and people can go check it out on your Instagram. And there's a video of your mom and she's just like, yo, check it out.
Yeah,
she's like so hyped.
Yeah, no, she acts like really humble. And then like there are little moments like that where she showed up to that day in a fur jacket, and then she goes, oh, like me, that's me. And I was surprised she even agreed to do it, because it's a huge deal to have your work be part of a public art installation, and having a giant portrait of yourself, I can imagine it being uncomfortable, but it ended up being an amazing experience, not just for her, but my mom's a nurse practitioner, so a lot of her patients in the Cambodian community in like Warwick and Providence, they recognized her, and there was a sense of pride that all of us felt. So
has your mom always been pretty supportive of your artistic pursuits and photography and whatnot?
I would say so, like from a artistic standpoint, but there's obviously a lot of anxiety that comes with like, coming to this country, giving your child everything, and then there's like, I want to take pictures for a living. Like I can understand why that's super strange, and she's definitely come around, especially with my most recent projects. She felt like extremely seen by it, and my dad said it was like one of the best works that I've produced so far, and I can't wait to see what happens after that. But she loves collaborating too. Like we've made a couple of photographs together where she's had some creative direction in it, and she loves it. Like I said, like I only am here because she loves photography. So that's awesome. Yeah. Do you remember like the first camera you got and you were taking pictures with? Yeah. So my high school was very fortunate to have a photography, what's it called, like elective. Yep. And it was like an intro to digital photography. So I had a Canon Rebel T6, and I loved that camera. And then I really, though, got interested in film because that class we made the pinhole cameras, camera obscuras. It was just so magical to me. yeah, that's how it all started.
What were you taking pictures of when you first kind of picked up your camera?
I was doing portraits. Like, I just knew from the beginning that's what I wanted to do. I grew up in the Tumblr era of the internet, so there was a lot of portrait photography happening on there, and I loved fashion photography, all sorts of things. And when I didn't have a friend to model for me after school, I would take pictures of my mom's like flowers in the backyard and like make the background all blurry. I always wanted to be focusing on one thing and then telling a story through there.
That's cool. And you were just kind of learning from the classes in high school pretty much?
Yeah, and I watched a lot of YouTube videos. Yeah, shout out to all of them.
What channels were you?
Oh,
Because I did the deep dive. You actually have a YouTube channel.
Oh, gosh.
It's only like 2 videos, but they're like good. It's like you're
it's
like
so
these
strange.
They're like these are my favorite film
yes,
stars.
I did that. Yeah, I need to start that back up. But William Verbeek, he's great. He really helps me figure out my cameras. Todd Coral, I think that's how you pronounce his last name. He's a big 4x5 guy. Mm-hmm. Jessica Kobasi, she was so integral to helping me with my like editorial work and learning how to work with models. And obviously like my training at Mass Art helped as well. But I would say like even when I was in school, I would be watching YouTube so I could practice things at home and yeah.
Were there like any like female photographers you looked up to? Because I feel like especially the YouTube scene, it's pretty dude heavy, and a lot of
it is very dude heavy, very gear heavy, and
just photography in general. Like.
Yeah, for sure. I think obviously, so Jessica Kobasi on YouTube, she was great. I also fell in love with Petra Collins when I was younger. I think just her work catering towards the upbringing of women, like changing from like teenager to adulthood, like I just really resonated with her work, and I thought it was really cool what she was doing with different celebrities, and now she's just huge right now. So yeah, those were definitely the women I looked at growing up, but I wasn't exposed to like documentary type of women photographers until I got to college, and I fell in love with Laurel Nakadate, Anmi Lei, Pau Her, Katia Landeros, just like really great photographers that I also had the privilege of studying under too. And it was just such a, like, I look back and I'm like, I didn't take it for granted, but sometimes I'm like, I wish, like, I realized when I was in it how cool.
In college?
Yeah, like, my senior thesis teacher was Laura McPhee, for Christ's sake. Like, I was like, that is so amazing. She's amazing. So, Mass Art Photo, it's a great, powerhouse of teachers there. So
when you got to Mass Art, like, did you have a goal in mind for the type of work you wanted to do, or like, where were you at that point? I went to photo school too, but
where did you go?
I went to RIT.
Okay, nice.
And I saw you did like a show there or something.
Yeah, it was like a student work show.
Really cool. But I mean, I got to school like I didn't know shit about. Only thing I knew about photography was like skateboarding photography, and that was it.
Yeah, no, but that's like. I love like skateboard photography, street photography. I love that nitty gritty black and white stuff. And it's funny you mentioned that you went to RIT. So I have a huge connection to Rochester because my grandma's from Hilton. Yep. And my grandpa, my step grandpa, was a sprocket hole puncher at Kodak.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're destined to be a photographer.
I guess so. But what were we saying before that?
Just like getting to college, like did you know the type of work you wanted to do? Like
yeah, for sure. I think so when I first got to Mass Art, I really liked fashion and editorial photography, but obviously it's a fine art program, so they do sway you away from that. And that's something that I do wish there was more chances to do that in their electives. Like there is like a studio lighting class and a what's it called, like professional practices where you can do like fake assignments and stuff. But that did ultimately like push me away from that. And as I got towards the end of my college career, I was way more interested in doing my documentary work. And Yeah, I've changed a lot since then, and it's not necessarily a good or bad thing. I still love doing editorial stuff, but I'm definitely a product of the system a little bit.
You're,
But I'm
you're,
so
yeah,
glad.
that's why I appreciate your work. You're this like
Yeah.
you're like a real artist, and your work's like real like
I
introspective.
appreciate it.
And I was just like, I've sold myself to the corporate.
No,
like,
I get that, and that's like how I started, and then when I got pushed really hard to make work about like who I am and where I come from, and I realized that studying like photo history and whatever, like the background in which like my community is barely represented, and if they are, it's in a really strange way. And then I realized like, oh, I have the power to do something. So they really pushed me, and I pushed myself to go into that direction, and it's proven to be like such a rewarding thing. I've met so many great people.
do you feel like you've learned a lot about your own culture, this and doing like getting to photograph like your family and this the community and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think the camera acts as like a vessel for me to go back into time, and a lot of Cambodian youth, maybe not youth, but young adults are in what our community has termed as the Khmer Renaissance right now, because the arts were a targeted group during the Khmer Rouge regime. They didn't want artists or musicians. Some of the most famous Cambodian musicians passed during that time. Cambodian weaving and ceramics almost died out. So all of us are, now that our parents have come here and given us the opportunities to make art again, a lot of us are doing that in ways that bring in contemporary aspects as well as preserving cultural traditions.
Yeah, it's important because like any culture, if you're not continually like teaching the history about the culture, it can kind of get lost. So it's like
totally
important that you're kind of preserving that and then sharing with the new generation.
Like you said, no matter what culture you're from, it's always fun to connect with other people about your roots and find your similarities, and also bring in new ideas and things like that.
Definitely. And when you're at Mass Art, what kind of work were you making when you were there?
So it moved all over the place. At the beginning, I was doing a lot of like editorial type portraits, Petra Collins type portraits, like stuff that I found myself working a lot with musicians. And then during COVID, I was in school during COVID, so that was a whole other conversation
that kind of stinks.
Chat about.
Yeah.
But I started to make work about gender politics, especially with everything that was going on towards the end of that presidency. It felt really important for me to break that down with some of my female friends, and then after that,
when you say like gender politics, like what did that work look like?
Yeah, so I was doing a lot of work about female empowerment, but not in like the traditional sense. I was trying to break visual taboos, if that makes sense, like things like menstruation, or like there was a lot going on with like abortion and body politics at the time, and I was trying to just like make pictures that made people slightly uncomfortable to like start that conversation about, like who really is in charge of women's bodies and things like that. And I admit, like, it's harder for me to talk about that than it is for my work about like who I am, like being Cambodian. So I did find that stage of my work started to come to an end. And like I said, I was in school during the pandemic, and the Stop Asian Hate movement gained a lot of traction during that time. And that was that point where like I mentioned earlier, I realized I have the power to do something and to bring people together. And I thought, like, obviously I can't solve this problem, but I can bring people together to provide solidarity for my community. So my work for junior and senior year was all just photographing people in the Asian American community in Boston and Providence And then it focused even further senior year into the Southeast Asian community in Providence. And then it focused even more into just the Cambodian community. And yeah, it was just all portraits the entire time, just the whole time. But yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. And when you're photographing like a specific community, like how do you kind of reach out to your subjects, and like how has kind of been the reaction to the, I guess, the Cambodian community, or just
Yeah, that's always one of the most fun parts. When I was a junior and we had the assignment to like make a short-term project on large format for like 2.5 months, and I wanted to do this Asian American Pride project that looked like Fall River Boys by Richard Rinaldi.
I know. That is like, I don't own that book, but it's one of those books I've been meaning to buy forever. Like anybody listening, go check that out. Fall River Boys. Yeah.
And he's just such a sweet person, I've heard, and I love his work. But anyway, I was like, fell in love with that project. That was the year that the Fall River Museum of Contemporary Art showed that work. So I was like, oh my God, large format. Like, this is crazy, black and white photography. And then I thought, like, how cool would it be for like a girl to make a Fall River Boys type project, but just with like a shit ton of Asian people? And that's what I did for like 2.5 years. Like, my junior project continued on. And I reached out to people by doing a call on Instagram, where I was just like, if you're interested in you or your significant other or your family members getting their portrait taken to really memorialize this moment, feel free to sign up. And then I went through these lists I had people tell me their stories and why they wanted to get their photographs taken. And then from there, some people were people that I knew well, and some people were new people that were mutuals. And I would choose a family, and then I would go deeper into the family. So in the Two Oceans project, I would work with all different people from different families that were interconnected with other families, and ask them, if I were to make 5 photographs of you, what were the 5 stories about your life you would want to tell? And that's how we did it.
Have you always been comfortable with this, like, approaching people, being a portrait photographer, and some of the people you know, some people you don't? Like, is that something you feel like you just get better at in time, or you always just kind of had that confidence in yourself?
Yeah, I think it's gotten better with time. I think once you know one family and you're doing a project like this, it's easier to reach out to another family. And I think being conscious of how, like, strange it is for a stranger to be like, can I take your portrait? And that's why I think it's important, like, for people to also come to me so that it's not super weird. But and that's why I always ask them, like, what do you want this picture to look like? So the Two Oceans project was extremely collaborative, and like I said, I would ask them, like, what are the 5 things about your life that I could photograph? And that way it became like a collaborative process that made it easier for me to work with strangers, especially.
And I would imagine, like, once the beginning of the project's probably the toughest part, but once you get some, and you can show people.
It was just like
you can
on
show
a
people,
roll.
and then I'm sure you had more than you could handle.
No, that's exactly how it was. And like I have, I think, like 3 or 4. Those like archival negative boxes, just full of negatives. And I'm like, no one has seen any of these. And like half of them are shit. Some of them are really good. And then, it was super fun to do that.
Are you pretty organized with your negatives, or what's your
I'm very organized with my large format, because those are easier because they're already, sheets and they're huge.
It's like a book.
I tried to be organized with my medium and my 35, but I am so turned away by the idea of cutting them up and then putting them in the thing. So I have a crate.
Yeah.
Every time I move, everyone's like, what is this? And it's just a giant,
you're
giant crate filled of negatives.
Yeah.
At least they're like somewhere.
They're there.
They're there. And like, I always have a heart attack when people are like, oh, you keep yours? And I'm like...
Oh, that is like a thing. I was talking to someone that owns a lab, and I was like,
Who was it?
My friend Connor, he owns Panoptica in Rockland, It's a lab.
Connor Knoll?
Yeah.
Yeah, I went to school with
Oh
Connor.
wow, that's amazing. Because he just took it over, him and his business partner.
Yeah.
I was like, I was like, yo, how many people don't come pick up their negs? He's like, a lot. He's like, it's just.
You never know.
I'm like, it's crazy.
So I had David Hilliard as a teacher, and he was like, there was one day where he was like, guys, like, I am too stressed out right now. And we're like, why? And he was like, someone wants a print of a really old photograph and I can't find the negative. And I was like, fuck. And he's like, like a lot more in the mature stage of his career. So I can't even imagine how many he's looking through. And that gave me a heart attack. They also tried to be, really like organize your hard drives, blah, blah, blah. And I try with that.
It's true, because once you like, quote unquote, try to make your living from this, and people want to, like, you're in the fine world, if you want to sell prints and stuff, it's like,
oh, I know.
If it's organized, you're like, oh, bam, like, here you go. It's just like money.
Yeah. If I had infinite money, I would definitely like hire someone to just cut them up and organize my shit.
I'm not organized either. I'm trying to get better at it, but
it's tough. Like photographers, like we're just not organized people, and like I don't know if like that's for everybody, but I find like we're not the most crafty people. Like our precision is not as good. I don't know. Like that's just
unless you're like
found.
a still life photographer. I feel like they're like, like
Most. So I work at a print lab in East Providence, and most photographers that come in, I feel like everyone is just so like, like I need to do this, I need to do that, like whoa, and the painter's like, hello, like here's my thing, blah blah blah. So
yeah. But I guess you look back at your time at Mass Art, was that like a beneficial experience for you think, like going to art school? What do you think you learned most?
I think, there's no right or wrong. And I recently did an interview with that photoblogger, where they asked a similar question about like, is it worth it? And every photographer was like, like I don't want to say what's right or wrong. And it was beneficial for me because the resources were incredible, and I didn't grow up in a family where we visited like the art museums like that. Like it was just like, oh, like like someone's birthday party at the RISD Museum, like something like that. And I'd be like, wow, like what is all this? And I didn't even know about photography as like an art form until I really came to Mass Art. And the critiques were very beneficial, as annoying as they can be. I really grew in that process. And, being able to have like-minded people around you to give you feedback and make friends, and just obviously like the resources were great. And I tried to be in the dark room as long as I could be, and,
Yeah, that's amazing. I just missed the community aspect of it.
Yeah.
When you got out of college, like, I know you mentioned you're out of lab. Is that kind of what you've been doing pretty much since you got? Because that's the other thing I was gonna say. You only been out of school a couple of years. Like you've accomplished a lot. Like
Thank you.
It's like impressive.
Thank you. So when I graduated, I worked as a gallery assistant at the Providence Art Club, and it was one of my favorite jobs in the world. It's just not a high-paying job, so I left. But I loved working in the gallery field. It was so different, obviously, but I really enjoyed that process. And then an opening came up at IO Labs in East Providence, so I've been there since August of this year or last year. I don't know what year it is anymore, but so I do like printing. I make like G-clays, like things like that, and it's actually really been beneficial to my like exhibition career, because I've learned so much about paper and framing, and I've definitely become better at that, as well as like admin work. Like I've been a lot more involved in the planning of shows and things like that, and I don't really know where I want to go with my career in the future. Like I did really want to be a teacher when I left college and when I wanted to go to college, and that kind of came full circle, but I don't really know if I want to go to grad school right now. And I think like if I were to go back, the ability to combine like liberal arts with my art degree would be really exciting because I do really like working in like the historical field as well. And so yeah, my head's just kind of all over the place, but I try to remind myself like I don't need to go back to school anytime soon if I needed to. And I actually really enjoy working as a print specialist right now, and I don't see myself moving from that for a little while. And I'm trying to like try different things before it's like way too difficult to hop around.
Definitely do as much as you can.
Yeah.
What were you doing? You mentioned the gallery assistant.
Yeah.
What kind of stuff were you handling? What do you kind of learn?
So we mostly did like member shows at the art club, but there were some really cool shows. Like we did like a college show, so we were hanging work from students at RISD, Rick, URI, all sorts of stuff like that. We had a community invitational show. There was one really random but super cool show. You know Jacques Pepin, the chef?
Yeah.
He has paintings. So he came to the art club. We hung his paintings. That was definitely one of the coolest things that I did. But yeah, I just really enjoyed the... I don't know, like using tools, hanging stuff, interacting with people. It was really fun to constantly be changing art and looking at new art.
That's cool. That's all. I think even while you were in school, you were doing assignments for like Rolling Stone and Elle. Yeah. So were you like just even while you're in school doing your schoolwork, you're like trying to get your work out there in magazines and stuff? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it sounds like crazier than it was. Like there was a lot of downtime because I went to school during COVID. So like as messed up as that whole situation was, it did give me the opportunity because I was home for like a year and a half where like I didn't need to be on campus.
Was that like the freshman year?
So I took my gap year and I was like, I'm never going to college. And then I go to college and then COVID hits and I'm like, is this a sign from God that I shouldn't be here? And my mom was like, you better stay. So I stayed, and then I was online on Zoom from March 2020 to September 2021, 2022.
How would that work? So you'd like shoot work and you guys would have to like show it on a screen? Like,
yes.
See, I would hate that. I never took an online class or anything.
The story I tell people just to give them like a sense of how chaotic it was, that like the teachers were really trying. Like I really give it to them, but some of the assignments were like, what is this? They were like, we're going to teach you guys about like tethering so you can know how to be like a studio assistant.
Okay.
But we're going to have you tether your DSLR to Zoom and then photograph each other through Zoom.
Oh, that was like a whole thing during COVID.
Yes, and I was just like, what on earth is going on? Like,
you're like, I want to shoot 8x10 like Ronaldo.
And that was another shitty part of COVID school. Our whole medium format semester was canceled. Damn. So I never learned medium format in school.
Because they're like, it's too hard for people to get their photos to the lab.
So we did large format a year later than the normal curriculum did, but I never learned how to process my own medium format film and whatever. So that was, YouTube school. William Verbeek taught me that. But I still to this day haven't processed medium format film.
That's kind of a bummer. You kind of got robbed of like, because half of
things that you're paying for.
Well, half of college is like like learning, but then it's also this like being around the other people, Mm-hmm. So it's like yeah. That must have been weird once you guys finally went back.
It was so weird, and we still like obviously were wearing masks for a little while, and it was strange when they were like, okay, everyone take your masks off now, and it's like, oh, that's what you look like. It was just such a weird. Yeah. And like another weird thing was we would have like crit or something, and someone would be sick with COVID, but then they'd want to come to class, so they'd put them on Zoom, and you just have like someone
with COVID
like there, and they'd be like, okay, like Sally, like what do you think of Kannetha's crit? And then like no one would respond, and it was just such a weird
weird time. Wild time. you mentioned a little bit, but like 8x10. When did you first start using that? I've actually never. I've shot 4x5 medium format for years.
If
never,
you ever can get your hands
yeah.
on someone's 8x10, it is a life-changing experience.
This is so expensive.
It is so expensive. That's why I only did it when I was in school. I haven't done it anymore, but I'm saving up slowly for my own 4x5 right now.
Yeah.
But so I saw Fall River Boys. I saw Laura McPhee's work. I saw all of these different 8x10
was Laura? She was 8x10. Yeah.
Yeah, 8x10 landscapes and portraits in the Midwest. Definitely look up her work. She's amazing. And so I was seeing this work, and I just really wanted to do it. And I knew that there was probably going to be no other chance for me to have such an amazing opportunity to try it and also be with the greats. So I was like, okay, like, fuck it. I'm doing my senior thesis on 8x10. And
It's only money. It's only money.
Yeah, and everyone's like, what the hell? And so I saved so much money, and I just cranked it out. But I went on a system so that I wouldn't just be like shooting and then running out of, whatever. So I tried to only do 2 to 4 negatives per person.
I mean, more than that, it'd be,
yeah. So, and that taught me how to be so much of a better photographer, because I was like, I can't waste this shit. Like,
yeah, because what's one sheet of 8x10 going for now?
So one sheet,
or like a box you buy it in 10 sheets,
so
right?
Laura told me, so I haven't shot 8x10 color, but Laura, that's her whole thing. She said that in 2023, a box of Kodak Portra was $25 a sheet. And then for me, a box of Ilford HP5 8x10 was like $200 a box for 25 or something, $250. I don't remember.
Okay, yeah. It's a lot.
It's a lot, but I'm so glad that I did it. It changed so much about my photography, and to this day, I am craving the way that I used that camera. Like, it just felt right. Just like, I love my 6x7, my Mamiya, but something is wrong. Like, I miss the going under, and
you got the loop.
The big, nice, window here to look through. It has like this really technical, like, it kind of feels like you're working with like a tank or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's big.
It's big, and I don't know, it made me feel more connected to the process, and now I find something is missing, and I'll try to re-edit my 6x7 photos to like have more of a blur in the background, because I miss the 8x10. So it's mostly a cost thing, and I hope that one day I can start shooting 4x5 again.
Because like we'll get into it, but the new project with your grandmother, that's all, is that medium format or what?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll see. I'm hoping that I get some sort of grant this year so I can buy a new large format, because I have so many projects that I'm like, I don't know if I want to shoot this on medium format.
Have you had much luck like applying for grants and getting some of that stuff?
Yeah. Usually, like, it's a lot of rejection. Like, there are some weeks where I'm just so bummed out about it, but it's just, the more you do them, the more you learn. And I've been really fortunate to get like one a year. Even if it's a small one, it really does count. So.
Yeah. And for people listening, like, where do you normally find those grants? Is there like websites you can find that stuff?
Yeah. So I don't know how much I can speak to Boston area, like Massachusetts stuff. I know that there's like the Mass Cultural Grants, and if you go on their websites, there's also great opportunities through like Mass MoCA, that kind of thing. But for Rhode Island, a lot of the grants come through Interlace, Providence Arts, Culture, Tourism, and RISCA. There's some other grants that come out here and there, but you can subscribe to their newsletters. They also have at the bottom of ACT's grants, like, they have a page that's like, if you don't get this grant, here's other grants that you can apply to. The Awesome Foundation, which has a weird name, but there's chapters in every state. It's like an unrestricted $1,000 a month. like you just apply for it. And something to follow for all New Englanders, my friend Michael Rose, he has a newsletter that comes out every Friday with opportunities for all artists.
Wow.
In Rhode Island, in New England, and around the U.S. Jobs,
and that's
grants.
just on his website, is it?
It's on a Substack. So
Okay.
if you just look up like Michael Rose Substack,
Okay.
it'll come up. And it's been great. People have been getting jobs through it. So
That's amazing. Yeah, that's like half of this is just trying to figure out, like, you don't know what's available unless you ask people, and there's like all this stuff out there. So
and they make it so annoying to apply to. And like, I just had one last week that I really wanted to apply to, and then I found out I needed a non-profit fiscal sponsor, and it was just like, so it's, they come and they go.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. And being that you're a portrait photographer, like, how do you approach portraiture? Like, when you go in your portrait shoot, like, do you have an idea in mind when you go into it? Does it kind of, like, just once you get there, you kind of make your decision? Or, like, how do you approach portrait shoots?
I think I'll answer this, like, kind of based on my project, so, like, it's easier to kind of visualize them after you listen. But basically, I have different methods of making portraits. There's like one where like I call it like the tableau style because it's like painting. So it's like you're setting up a scene and you try to make it look like as real as possible. Those I will not tell you which photographs they are. So
I feel like I'm looking at one right now. Your grandmother, she's like sitting in the field.
Yes,
like,
yeah.
I was like, this is a setup.
That's a setup. That's a setup. Then there's other ones where there are projects like the Grandma Project where I plan everything beforehand, but I don't tell them that I'm doing that because I don't want to overwhelm them or take away the authenticity of a portrait. So I have like so many different notebooks and Google Docs of just like ideas after idea after idea. With the Two Oceans Project, that was a collaborative process on like where we were going to do the portraits and whatnot. But once I get there, I try not to pose people too much. Like I'll say like, go stand here and then like, sit however you feel comfortable. And what was nice with the large format was by the time I had the whole thing set up and ready, there was like a rawness in the person sitting across from me that there is no longer the patience. So it was just like, here I am, like this is me. And it made for like really emotional, deep portraits. So with the Grandma Project, it was a lot more like...
And the project is called A Familiar Stranger.
A Familial
To get it right, but I
Stranger.
called it the Grandma Project.
Yes,
but
I call it the Grandma Project too, because it's just the easiest way to remember it. But that one, it was just like memories from my childhood that I wanted to like find within the house as an adult, and I was thinking of ways to bring my grandma a bit of. There was obviously moments of like really tough like topics we were covering, but then there were moments where it's like it's really fun to have an elderly woman get her portrait taken and feel like really beautiful and excited about getting their portrait taken. So there are moments like that where I would tell her like, look up at the sky, or like how long has it been since you just like felt what the sun feels like on you? Just
was she like into it right from the get-go?
Oh no. At the beginning, I told her, I'm coming to see you to make pictures, okay? And she goes, okay. I show up, she's like, what are you doing? What is this? Why do you want to take pictures of me? Like, why don't you go take pictures, she said, of the carousel down the road? And I was like, what? Like, I want pictures of you, Grandma. And then it took me having to say, like, you're going to die soon. Do you want photos? And she goes, oh, okay, let me go get my lipstick. Let me go. And that photograph of her sitting in the bedroom where you can see the light and everything, I wanted to showcase that was one of the first photographs. So there was like a discomfort from
that was
her.
one of the first ones?
That was one of the first ones because she got dressed up in like her church outfit, did her makeup, and towards the end of the project, that all those layers just started to come off, and she realized like, I was really trying to make a project about her and the house, and she was very excited about it by the end. I think she's still confused. There is like, I don't know, she's from an environment where like she would never really go to an art gallery or whatever. So when we showed her pictures, like, you're in an art gallery, like, this is a picture of you, she's like, what? What is this?
Yeah.
So
No, it's amazing. I love that portrait of your grandmother in her bedroom. And my favorite part of the picture is a lot of it, but it's the vent. Is it straight on the floor, like in the carpet? It's just, I loved it.
Yeah. Who was I speaking to? Scott Lapham, great photographer from Providence. He was one of the first people that I like sat down and showed the project to and actually had a conversation about it. And he was just like, like, I'm a little bit older than you, so there are things about this project that just like you did a good job of like showing people the time period that your grandma like grew up in, and there's things about the house that are just so
the wallpaper,
70s.
the colors, it's like greens, browns, like a lot of these like creams and stuff.
And it's just, I'm really glad that I did it. She's 83 soon, so she's not that old, but like it's nice to get these photographs before, like, God forbid she has to go to a nursing home or things like that. So.
And with that photo, some of the photos you're using like hot lights. Was that like a new thing with this project? Okay.
So actually, in Two Oceans, a lot of them I used the same lighting. I used a strobe or a hot light. But I think with the color film, it's like easier to see that usage, in my opinion. So I wanted to light a lot more of this project with a hot light because I felt like there was a warmth and like an angelicness that I wanted to portray in the pictures. I wanted them to feel very like feminine and homey, but also like there's a level of discomfort with the hot light that makes things feel forensic, and that's how I wanted some of the photos to feel, because this was the first time that I was coming back to the house since I was 14. And like everyone can relate to the experience of like growing up and then like meeting a parent or grandparent for the first time, like as an adult, even though you've known them the whole time, like just like being like, okay, like we are equals now, like, and that's kind of how I felt coming back. Like I felt like I was in a space that I felt like I needed to investigate versus like be part of. So yeah.
No, it's an amazing story, and you have it written on your website, and people can go check it out, because it's kind of about your grandmother, but your mother too.
Yeah.
And they were both lived in like the refugee camps during the genocide in Cambodia, and they were separated. How many years were they separated for? Because they didn't even know they were both alive.
Yes.
And then your grandmother got here to Rochester, New York.
Yeah.
And then how long were they separated until they got connected again?
Yeah. So my mom was, I would say, around 5.5, maybe just 5 or 6 when they were first separated. My mom went to a children's camp with my auntie, and then my grandma, I actually don't know what camp she went to, but then the two of them didn't know the other person was alive until my mom was around 13 years old. So I can't do the math right now.
So then at 13 years old, your mom moved to Rochester to live with your mother again?
So it took an entire year. After my grandma found out my mom was alive, my mom was in one of the UNICEF refugee camps. And it takes, at the time, a whole year to get approved to come to the United States. So my mom had to wait, and so did my grandma. And then my mom came through San Francisco, 14 years old, all by herself. And then she came to Rochester and didn't even recognize my grandma because she hadn't seen her since she was a little girl. And so that's why I called the project A Familial Stranger, because not only to me, but also to my mom, my grandma is someone that we know is family, but we don't see them often enough or know them well enough to really like know them, Like there's a barrier between us and my grandma that I know the majority of what happened to my mom, but my grandma and my mom to this day have never actually sat down and said, this is what happened to me during
Yeah,
the
that's what I was going to
marriage.
ask you is like, did you grow up your family talking about this stuff or through the
Yeah.
process of like making this work, you kind of got to
Yeah.
learn more about your family?
Exactly. So with my mom actually wrote a memoir when she was at URI about surviving Khmer Rouge. So a lot of what I've learned is through like dissecting that memoir and connecting stories I heard in my childhood when maybe she didn't realize I could hear and like things like that. And meanwhile with my grandma, like she's at a different stage where she'll kind of randomly drop memories when she's cooking with you, like just like really like sad, just like, you know, like randomly out of nowhere, and you're like, oh my god, like grandma, like
Yeah.
are you good? And it's just, you know, on to the next thing. But the two of them never actually spoke about it. That's like a pretty big cultural thing. It's just like we just want to move forward, and part of it is because my mom doesn't want to re-traumatize my grandma,
Yeah.
you know, and having her speak about it. But my grandma, the project that I'm working on in the future, I'm pulling from these stories that my grandma and my mom will like occasionally verbally tell, that aren't necessarily about all of the bad things, but rather like little moments of hope and like magic during that time that gave them the strength
Oh, is
to
that this?
survive.
It's on your website. I wasn't sure. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
yeah.
sound like a complete fucking moron, but like I was like, is the project actually called
Called Coming Soon?
Coming soon, or
Yeah,
because
no.
it's called like found photographs.
Yeah,
It's-
so
yeah.
that project is coming soon. I wanted to keep it on there because even though it doesn't have a title and even though it's not even close to done, and I am very private about some of the things I'm doing with those photographs, it feels important to like have those there in case like you're interested in like seeing some of my family photographs. But those photographs are like personal belongings were illegal during the Cambodian genocide. So these photographs, some of them were found when my mom went back to the capital in Cambodia after the genocide, and she found what's it called? Photographs that like somehow survived all of the war torn mess that was happening, and some of them she like snuck through the refugee camps, and she was able to have them. So I'm really interested in taking some of these photographs and combining them with these little magical stories from that time period and making like I've started to move into an interest in like sculptural photography and combining like textiles, just like very, very artsy shit. But it's just, I want it to still like feel really like accessible and like kind of like a magical myth type of thing. So I'm starting to work with like cyanotypes and archival photographs, textiles, things like that. So that's like a new development that I don't have much to say about yet, but I wanted to find a way other than just like saying like here are the photos, like saying like here are the stories that I can pull from these photos with. So
Coming soon.
very, very excited. Coming soon.
No, you're and people can read it in your website, but your
Yeah.
mom sounds like a badass. Just
Both of them, yeah, my grandma,
your grandma
and my mom.
But even
holy
the
shit.
story about your mom, she gets out of
Yeah.
Cambodia, and then she has an arranged marriage set up,
Yeah.
and she's like, I ain't doing this the night before.
No.
Bounces to Rhode Island.
Yeah.
Like-
yeah, that's a fun story I can tell quickly. It's like, oh my God. So imagine like you're 14, like you're a young adult, you're coming to the United States, you're the only Asian girl in Rochester, like, what was it called? I forget her high school name. Anyway, it's just like a shitty ass time. And then your mom's just like, by the way, I'm going to set you up to marry a guy that's like 10 years older than you because he has money. And even though you're 26, your biological clock is running out. You're not desirable
At
anymore.
26.
And my mom's like, what? So she walked around for a year with the engagement ring on her finger, and then finally the night before her wedding, in her memoir, she writes so beautifully about she sees her dad's portrait like staring back at her, one of the photographs she took with her, and she was like, you know, I went through everything. I And she thought of her dad who had passed, and she was like, this is not the life that I want. And she said, forgive me, Dad, for what I'm about to do. She packed up all her shit, got on a Greyhound bus, came to Rhode Island because her college roommate, Mary, who was a born-again Christian, she transferred from the University of Rochester to the Zion Bible Institute in Rhode Island in Barrington, which is no longer in service. And my mom showed up to Mary's dorm. They were pen pals and was just like, I need you to hide me here for a week. And then Mary's parents gave my mom a small sum of money to buy a car,
Wow.
go to URI, enroll in nursing classes, and that's how my mom like stayed in Rhode Island. And after 3 years, she reconnected with my grandma because she got engaged on her own accord, and she was like, I'm ready now to reconnect, and I just wanted you to understand, like, I'm an adult and, you know, I'm in America now. I want to be part of this other culture. So yeah, they're both just the shit that they've gone through. Like, when I talk about the American side of the story, it's just like so crazy.
Yeah.
Like, just
No,
yeah.
it's inspiring. This to be like, I can't imagine this coming from another country, and
Yeah.
and this like your mom's like, I'm just gonna figure it out. Like I'm not doing this. I'm gonna do it how I want to do it, and like
Yeah.
that's incredible.
Yeah.
I guess like the found photograph stuff. How much of it is there? Is there like a ton of it to go
Yeah.
through? Yeah.
There isn't a lot. I would say my mom has maybe under 10 photographs. And that's so rare because the majority of Khmer or Cambodian people I know, they don't have anything. And some of the photographs, for those familiar with the history of photography in Cambodia, some of them were taken by the Khmer Rouge because they were photographing some of their victims during that time period, which is just absolutely crazy. But just a reminder that, like, what I'm doing, like, I remind myself, like, there is a reason why I'm doing what I'm doing. And but anyway, so we have maybe under 10, and then some of the other photographs that I'll be working with are from my mom's first trip to Cambodia after the genocide in 2008. So I don't know the math on that, but maybe like 30 years later, 25 years later.
Wow.
So she went back with my grandma, and she was there. I was 8 years old. And some of the photographs, they're so beautiful. It's just like a beautiful reunion between her and my family. And she goes to Angkor Wat, which is like the temples there. And there's just beautiful photographs. And yeah, so because my mom was a photographer, she did value a lot of these things. So we have so many prints, not necessarily from that time period, but I have enough that it all feels like it meant something, and I need to do something with them. And yeah.
And when you're working on like project-based work like this, because as someone that's looking from the outside in at your work, like you had two oceans, and now the project with your grandmother, it all almost seems like a continuation a little bit of like you're just, and that's the cool thing about it, because I kind of work in a project style too, where you start and you can kind of just keep chipping away. It's like, and now you're doing the found photos, and it's like, but like, do you ever know, like, when you're done with the project, like, how do you, or do you think you would just like keep shooting this forever? Because that's that's like another thing, like I struggle with myself, as like, because you can just keep going and going.
You can keep going. That's been a struggle for me as well. Like, my garden in Elmwood project, like, that's an ongoing one, but I wanted to put it on the website so that it's there. And my archival project, like, I think I'm going to be reinterpreting those images for the rest of my life, but something I've been struggling with is, like, can I do that? Like, can I put out a project? Can I put out, like, one of these photographs as this new interpreted thing, and then, like, 5 years later do it again as something else? And I think that's okay. I think it's just, like, it's not something that's commonly done. So it's, like, I don't know. And Laura McPhee, she said, like, about artist statements, she was like, I'm like, I don't know how old she is. I'm not going to, like, age her. But she was just like, I'm this old. And sorry, that sounds rude.
No.
I am this old, and my artist statements never feel done. So that was very helpful. I think you kind of, like, know when it's time to, like, put your pen down, but, like, there will always be continuations of it. And to this day, like, oh my God, like if I get a 4x5, I kind of want to do like a Two Oceans 2.0, but in color.
Oh, wow.
And like one of my professors, I studied under Steven Torlentes, who's a great 8x10 photographer, and he was my my independent study teacher for 8x10, and he was like, you should do a project that works with like triptychs. And he was like, what if you do like a Two Oceans where it's like the portrait in the middle, and then you pan, like you shift the camera to the left and you see like the market that they're in and all the beautiful, things like that. And I was like, oh, like that's pretty cool. So I keep wanting to make the same project over and over, but bringing in new ideas and people, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
No, definitely not. I enjoy it because it's cute. It's just the more texture. It's like the Two Oceans, and then it's like the stuff with your grandmother.
Yeah,
and it's just
it's exciting.
You keep digging away at it. When you with Two Oceans, you shot in black and white, and you kind of bounce between color and black and white. When you were shooting all the 8x10 black and white, was it hard to go back to shooting color? Like did you start seeing in black and white?
Yeah, that's a really good point. So I shot that one in black and white because I wanted it to feel like I was making, like I said, like a Fall River Boys type project. And then I started to miss color, so I wanted the next project, the Grandma project, to be in color. And then after that, I started to miss black and white again. It's just like this constant, like, weird battle between the two. And sometimes I wonder, like, what it would be like to combine the two for a project. And I've been thinking about that. And it just, like, it really depends. I'm trying not to limit myself anymore. Like, there was photographs in Two Oceans that I would get critiques sometimes that was like, sometimes I feel like the camera is restricting you from making certain photographs. And I'm like, yeah, like, but I really like the 8x10, so I'm going to keep doing it. Because I'm very stubborn. But, so I'm thinking, like, for my newer works, like, there's going to be plenty more, like, Two Oceans type projects, but I do wonder what it could be like to combine different cameras for a project, different films for a project, black and white versus color. So, just, like, trying 2 million things.
I like that. And you're pretty much all film. For all the film. People are probably getting sick of me. I've been like, man, I grew up on film, and people are probably sick of hearing me talk about it.
No, it's amazing.
Year, I've been getting fully back into it. I finally bought a scanner and been shooting more. But like, for you, what is it about film you think that keeps you using that medium, I guess?
It reminds me of my mom's pictures. Like it's all of hers are film photographs that were printed, and there's a nostalgia to them that reminds me of why I fell in love with it. And I feel closer to the process. I think I discovered through large format that I desire a camera that feels like a tank. Like I feel like I become with the camera. Like I am the camera. And I don't think there's a right or wrong, like digital versus film. There's plenty of things that I was like, why did I shoot this on film? Like this would have been 2 million times easier if I did it digital. But with that large format, that negative is just so beautiful. The quality is amazing. The depth of field is amazing. And the other part of it is, like I said, like the Khmer Rouge were shooting film. They were shooting black and white photographs in the different prisons and camps they were using. Bin Don, who's a half Khmer, half Vietnamese photographer, he took photographs of the Khmer Rouges in larger I think he's making daguerreotypes of them. Daguerreotypes. And they're just, it's just insane. So when I worked in the darkroom when I was in college, it felt like I could feel, like, I don't know, like, for who's listening, like who believes in this kind of stuff, but in my culture in Buddhism, like I do feel like my grandfather was there with me when I was making photographs in the darkroom. Like there was just something about it that felt like I was connected back to history. And then one day I photographed my grandma on 4x5, and the photo came out terrible. Like I don't know what happened, but she was like, when I was a little girl, we had that camera. And I was like, what? And she was like, yeah, my grandpa had one. And that was like I was like, oh my God, like
Crazy.
I am meant to be doing this. Like that's so amazing. So yeah.
I like that. I like that quote. I am the camera.
I am the camera. I need to be the camera. It feels weird when I'm just like I need to be doing.
I get it. Yeah. Are you someone? Do you like getting input about your work? Like, do you share it with friends, or like what does the editing process look like for you?
Yeah. So I try to show my work to a select group of people. Mostly my friends from college.
Yep.
And like different mentors of mine. Usually, I find that the annoying thing is I'll show people photos and then everyone chooses different ones that they like, and then I'll throw out ones that I thought were terrible and everyone's like, this is the best one. And so yeah, I do like to show my work, but with like a trusted group of people.
Do you think there'd ever be like a video aspect to your work? I feel like the stuff we're doing with your family and stuff like that could be pretty cool, like interviews and stuff here.
Yeah, I've thought about it. I have a friend who makes great short documentaries, and I have been thinking about like asking him if we could collaborate, but I haven't really gotten around to it yet.
Yeah.
But I have thought about like, I know it's not the same, but like projection in the future.
How so? What do you mean? Like
Yeah, so I've been trying to, like, those little moments of magic during Khmer Rouge. I've been trying to find a way to reflect upon them and recreate them. And a lot of them have to do with, like, apparitions of my grandfather after he passed. And the way he's described is like as like a light or like a scent, like things like that. And I'm just like, how, like you can't photograph that. Like some of it you can, but it's impossible to photograph something that isn't actually there. Mm-hmm. So I've been trying to think about like the magic of photography in itself. Like what can I do with cyanotype? What can I do with projecting an image onto something else? So it's just like all over the place, but I'm looking forward to exploring and getting back into like why we all fall in love with film, which is just like the magic of it.
Yeah,
so.
it seems like photography, like I guess to wrap up, like what do you think it is that you love most about photography, and like how you still got that same excitement for it?
Yeah, I think what I love most about it is it's been a way for me to connect with other people through my portraits, and it's a really intimate thing to do with someone, to photograph them, and it's been a way for me to put like a barrier between someone else and me, and it's the camera, to like tell someone's story and feel comfortable doing that. And I've felt like a lot of people have come together because of the different events that my friends and I have done, or exhibitions, and that's been very rewarding. And then with more of a respects to like the medium itself, like it's just so exciting to shoot 8x10. It's just something about it. Oh my gosh, I miss it. It's just it's magic. Yeah. Like, and the way that it's, people just don't know what it is, and it's amazing to explain it to people and go under the dark cloth. Like anytime I'm working with kids in my projects, like in Two Oceans, all of them came under the dark cloth with me. And
really?
Yeah, it's just it's the most fun thing. Like I always want them to see what they're going to be photographed as, and showing them how to like, press the shutter and things like that. And there's some little boys, they said, "What is that? Is that radioactive? Like what?" And I'm like, "No." So it's just there's a fun to it that Laurel Nakadate, she moderated a talk recently with John Shen at Praise Shadows in Brookline that I went to, and Laurel was like, I've been a teacher for this many years, and everyone has kind of been shooting the same picture because everyone's using the same digital cameras.
Yep.
And she was like, it's so exciting when photographers, whether it's film or digital, like they want to make something different. And that's the beauty of film to me, is like no one can really replicate what you're doing.
And there's like a magic to it, like when you get your film back and you're like,
Yeah.
sometimes you're like, damn, it didn't look like what I thought it
Yes,
was gonna be
more
like.
times
You're
than
like,
not.
you're like, fuck.
Yeah.
But then when you get it, you're like, yes.
Yes, yes.
It's like
for
a good,
sure.
it's like a really good meal or something.
It
You know what I
is.
mean? Like,
Yeah, it's very satisfying, and you just like want to show the world like immediately.
And I guess anything else you're excited about you're working on or anything?
Secrets that I will announce. Me and my friend Tariq Bartel, who did a joint grandma show in Providence, it is traveling to PRC in Boston.
Oh, wow.
So end of May to wrap up Asian American History Month. It's going to be May to early July at PRC
Nice.
in Cambridge. So very exciting. We're going to do a second grandma show that's more focused on altars as well. So it's just going to be a really cool experience for people to come in and feel like they're, part of our culture and feel like you're at temple. And it's really exciting. So
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I mentioned at the beginning, but I'll say it again. Next Saturday,
Yes.
March 22nd, if you're in Boston at the Leica store, what time is it again you're going to be doing?
12 to 2.
Yeah, Kannetha's going to be doing an artist talk. And so definitely check that out. But Kannetha, thanks so much for taking time.
Thanks so much for having me. This is awesome.
Perfect.
So there you have it. That was the Kannetha Brown episode. Just want to thank Kannetha so much for taking the time to come on the podcast. It was a real pleasure talking to her about her journey with photography and all the amazing projects she's working on. So can't thank her enough. You can go check out more of Kannetha's work at her website at KannethaBrown.com, or you can follow her on Instagram at Kannetha.brown. I'll put all her links in the show notes, and you can go give her a follow. She's always posting up different work and projects she's working on, so definitely worth go checking that out. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, if you're in the Boston area this Saturday, March 22nd, Kannetha is going to be doing an artist talk at the Leica Gallery in Boston from 12 to 2 p.m. So definitely go check that out if you're in the area. And also, as I mentioned with today's episode, if you enter the promo code BANTER, you'll get 2 months free of the PicDrop image transfer tool. So definitely go give it a try. All you got to do is go over to PicDrop.com, enter the promo code BANTER, and you'll get 2 months free. And also, if you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel, I'd be much appreciated. You just go to the Photo Banter YouTube channel, hit subscribe. It would be greatly appreciated. And as always, thanks so much for listening, and take care.